Hi, Avril here from Access Credit Union. We are delighted to once again sponsor the Star Sports podcast. As part of our range of new business loans, we now offer Cultivate Farm Finance, the farmer-friendly loan package. With a Cultivate loan, farmers in West Cork can benefit from the local decision-making and personal service offered by Access Credit Union. To find out more, go to accesscu.ie/cultivate, call me on 085 268 2727 or 028 21883, where a member of our team will be happy to help you with your inquiry.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy and Matthew Hurley from the Star Sports department. Before we kick things off, I'd just like to give a gentle reminder to our listeners and viewers to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose the credit union, choose local, choose community. They've only gone and done it again. The rowers reared on the River Ilen have once again put Skibbereen and West Cork on the front and back pages with their exploits in Munich at the European Championships. On this week's show, we'll be chatting to Fintan McCarthy, one half of the new European champions, after he and Paul O'Donovan came out on top to claim yet another major championship gold medal. We're also going to be looking ahead to the weekend's club hurling action and hearing from Bill Fleming of Argideen Rangers. Bill has been chatting to Matthew, and a little later in the show, Matthew will also be giving us his 5 biggest takeaways from last weekend's football action. So stay tuned for that. But lads, there's no point in starting anywhere else this week other than with the aforementioned rowers' performances in Munich. And Kieran, coming to you first, the consistency this pair have continued to show at the highest level over the past few years is nothing short of remarkable.
Consistency is a great word, Jack. It's actually a rootless consistency at this stage. So just to put into context, that's their 5th international gold in a row. They're undefeated in their last 5 international regattas together. That stretches back to the 2019 Worlds. Go back to last year, they won World Cup 2 European gold, and of course Olympic gold, which was the Everest in rowing, and now they've won European gold again. So it's an absolutely sensational record. I think that's also 15 race wins in a row in terms of they've won every heat, semi-final and a final at their last 5 international regattas together. So Paul and Fintan in that double, they're the best in the world. They're officially the World Rowing Men's Crew of the Year for last year, and you can understand why. They're just in a different league to the rest of the men in the lightweights double in that pool of rowers right now. And almost to add to their achievement last weekend, you've got to remember this was Paul and Fintan's first time back in the double together, because they've had a very fragmented year so far. At the World Cup regattas, they were both in singles. So this was their first international regatta in the double together. They didn't have too much time together either, yet they come out and they produce performances like that. First in their heat to get through to the final, and then in the final itself, like they won by 4 seconds in the end. It was clear water. And almost towards the end of that race, that the camera panned to the battle for second and third, because you just knew the 2 skip boys were gone. They were home and hosed. They were gone so far ahead of that stage. So, like you said, Jack, they're on the front and back pages of the national newspaper. We're talking about them again, and so we should, because we have 2 Skibbereen men, 2 Down men, just out the road here from where the Star HQ is in Skibbereen. They're not too far, their homes aren't too far from our office here, and they're the best in the world at what they do. So, of course, we need to celebrate this and shout out loud that the best rowers in the world are here in Skib.
Line you mentioned there, the best in the world at what they do, and a big debate that's been happening across the various media platforms over the past few days is whether or not Paul O'Donovan is in fact actually Ireland's greatest sportsman in any sport. not just rowing. And I want to dive into that briefly. And Matthew, I'll come to you on that one first. I know it's a big question. How can you compare sports and eras? But just from your own perspective as a GAA man, where would you kind of see Paul and rank Paul in terms of Ireland's greatest ever sports person? Would you have him right up there?
I honestly do, yeah. Like, it's remarkable the way they've won race after race after race. And it was at a point actually on RT's coverage where they were kind of expecting the two lads to win. And that just shows their dominance in the sport they do. And yeah, that is a big question, all right? There's a lot of them across different sports. I suppose Katie Taylor, Conor McGregor, Roy Keane, there's a lot. But I think Paul is definitely up there. Like, when you look at his records, the 2016 Olympics winning silver, then gold again now with the European Championship. So he's had an absolutely remarkable record, both in the double boat and the single boat as well. So he's definitely right up there with being in contention for being Ireland's greatest sports person. And we win the best sports person of the year again this year. Well, there's arguments now here from other platforms that Fintan McCarthy's actually doing better than this year. So that'll be interesting to see who will actually win it at the end of the year with RT, for example. But yeah, he's definitely up there, Paul, definitely up there. And Fintan will be up there the next few years, I think, as well. They're two remarkable athletes.
Yeah, we're going to be speaking to Fintan in a few moments, and we'll maybe speak about him in more depth just before that chat. But just sticking, Kieran, with Paul for a moment, because I know a tweet you put out during the week after their success went pretty viral. You listed out his achievements, and we know where you stand on the rowers. You're obviously a big advocate for them. You're a big supporter of them. You have been for a good number of years now, so you're probably a good person to ask. Where does Paul O'Donovan rank for you in terms of Ireland's greatest ever sports person? I know that you have him right up there, but give us some of your reasons.
He's definitely right up there. Like just in terms of his list of achievements. So like, I just remember he just turned 28 back in April, so he's still quite a young sportsman. So we have the 2 Olympic medals, gold and silver. We have 4 world golds, 2 in the single, 2 in the double. He's now 3 European golds in the double, 2 with Fintan, 1 with Gary, and he's a host of World Cup medals as well. Gold, silver, bronze in the double and the single. So in terms of medals won, I'm not sure he's a more successful athlete Ireland has ever produced, because he's just a medal factory. But it's almost his transformative effect that he's had on Irish rowing. Think back to 2016 at the Rio Olympics. Ireland had never ever won an Olympic rowing medal. Paul and Gary came along. They won a sensational silver. They broke the glass ceiling. They introduced rowing, I suppose, into the homes of families right across the country. People who might have been interested in rowing before, all of a sudden they were taken in. Their hearts were captured by the O'Donovan brothers from Lachine. The boys can talk a good talk, of course they could, but the big thing with Paul is he always backs it up. He always performs. So as an athlete, like, the man he's a phenomenal specimen. Like, talk to people who know a lot more about rowing than I do. Like, he's the perfect lint. He's lung capacity. He's just built to row and built to move a boat so fast. So physically, he's all the attributes, but mentally, this man is on a different level to what we've ever come across before, and certainly what I've come across. Like, there's a toughness to him, a determination, and he's just an incredible athlete. And I'm even thinking back to when I wrote the book a couple of years ago. I was talking to his dad, Teddy, just about Gary and Paul when they were growing up, and he told me one anecdote about Paul. Years and years ago, the boys were so small. We went to co-op and just to get a 25 kg bag of feed, I think it was. And he said Paul was only a small little fella, wrapped his arms around the bag, and he dragged it across the shop to bring it out to the trailer. And he said, like, no one could help him. He had to drag it himself. You know, that just shows, even as a kid, there was like this determination, this craziness, I'd say, because there's this madness to him, you know, just to do things, and he's achieved so much. So in terms of that conversation, yeah, 100% he's up there. I think it's impossible to kind of say for definite who the best sports person is, but I think you look at Paul O'Donovan and Katie Taylor, those two in particular, as having huge transformative effects on their sport. Roy Keane and all our great football players, of course, fantastic sports people, but we've a lot of those, and people who came before them, like John Giles and so on. It's the same in GAA. But look at what Katie Taylor has done for women's boxing. Look what Paul O'Donovan has done for rowing, and I think they are the top two. And then let them fight it out for the crown.
Just to pick up on a couple of things you said there, the story you told about Paul carrying the 25 kg bag of grain from the co-op sounds very like the story that's told about the great wrestler Dano O'Mahony from Ballygiblin, who has an iron statue, who knocked out, was it a bull maybe with one punch in his youth. So maybe Paul O'Donovan is the new Dano O'Mahony, and there's a future for him in the world wrestling entertainment. I don't know what they say the beginning of it now, but, and the second thing you brought up was the inspiration that Paul and Gary's silver medal delivered for young people around West Cork and Skibbereen in particular. And one of the people who was inspired by that silver medal is our guest, who we're going to hear from in a few moments, because Fintan McCarthy, the story is well told, obviously watched that race in Skibbereen, and he said to himself at that moment that he's going to achieve the same things, or he's going to at least attempt to achieve the same things, and he's done that and then some. So before we come to Fintan though, Kieran, because we're going to speak to him in some detail, maybe bring us up to speed with some of the other local rowers who also made a big impression at the European Championships, because it wasn't just Paul and Fintan who stood out.
No, we had a large Skibbereen contingent out in Munich the past week. So going first to the lightweight women's double, we had Lydia Heafy, the Skibbereen rower. She's originally from Lep. Well, she is from Lep. She partnered with Mags Crimmon from Riverstown in that lightweight women's double, and they were superb. They got to the A final and they finished just fourth. But just to put into context again, the three of the top four crews from the Olympics last year were in this A final with them. And for Lydia and Mags, it was only their second international regatta together in this Olympic cycle. So for them to push so close to the Italians who finished in third was a tremendous achievement. And I have no doubt that Lydia and Mags will only get better and better and better from here. Then turning to the lightweight women's single with Aoife Casey in that boat, and she had another tremendous performance. She finished fourth in the A final of the lightweight women's, and she had a brilliant second half of the race, a brilliant second 1,000 metres, and she was pushing for medal too, and she just missed out. But again, it was a really impressive performance and something to build on. So that lightweight women's group of Lydia, Aoife and Mags, that's really strong at the moment. So any two of those three will get that lightweight double, which is the Olympic class boat, moving fast. And we also had Emily Hegarty, our Olympic bronze medal winning hero from Afferdown. She was in the Irish women's four last year. She partnered with Fiona Murta in the women's pair. And again, they finished fourth, just outside the medals. But again, that's a new crew. This is just their second international regatta together. So they'll take a lot of positives from that. And a lot of the rowers now got into their respective training camps ahead of the World Championships, which are on in the Czech Republic in mid-September. So we're not finished with the rowing just yet. There could be a couple more headlines to come. And just actually, before we move on, just to touch on the athletics for the moment, we've had two West Cork athletes also in action at European Championships this week. Disappointment for Phil Healy Monday night in the women's 400 metre heat. I don't know what went wrong for her, but it wasn't the Phil Healy that we know. She was in a strong position coming off the final bend, but she flagged badly coming out at home straight, and she finished sixth, and she didn't make it through to the semi-finals. While on Tuesday evening, Darragh McElhinney from Glengarriff was in action in the men's 5,000 metre final. Huge platform, huge stage for Darragh, and at one stage in the final lap, Darragh was in seventh position. The final 200 metres took their toll. Like Darragh faded as well, and he ended up finishing 16th, which isn't a reflection of his performance. Like, he was really impressive through this. Like, he's just remember, Darragh is 21 years old. I think this was his first European Senior Championships. He was in with the big boys, in with the Inge Britsons of this world, that Norwegian superstar. Yet inside that final lap, Darragh was in seventh place. So I think there's a lot of positives for Darragh to take into future years. And Darragh it's onwards and upwards for him. Like, that man is going places.
Lovely stuff, lads. Well, the man we've mentioned several times now is waiting to talk to us, and that is the European gold medal winning rower, Fintan McCarthy.
Delighted now to be joined on the podcast by a multiple gold medal winner at this stage, Fintan McCarthy, fresh from his rocks at the European Rowing Championships. First off, Fintan, congratulations on your latest success. Well done.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's been a good weekend for all of the team, really.
I can just imagine, like you said, great success for the Irish rowing team and for yourself and Paul in that double. But where in the world are you right now? Because that doesn't look like Afferdown. That doesn't look like Skibbereen.
Yeah, we're in Italy now. We came straight, pretty much straight after the final, just for a week. So we're going to do some training here and then head to our usual kind of spot in Banyoles in the north of Spain for the rest of the kind of pre-Worlds preparation. And then out to Czech Republic. So not much time at home over the next few weeks. Not any time at home really, but it's all for a good cause.
Please tell me, Coach Dominic Casey's letting yourself and Paul put your feet up for a couple of days anyway in Italy, so you can rest and recuperate after your exertions.
Yeah. Well, Paul's actually gone back to university, so he's in Cork at the moment. So he might join us now when we go to Spain for for a while.
So now, Fintan, right, we're a couple of days out from that race in Munich, and that race looked like it took an awful lot out of you and Paul, like the European final this year in Heath. How is the body right now, a couple of days on, and how long does it take to recover, get back to feeding yourself after a big regatta like that?
Yeah, it was a tough one, especially the first time making weight in the season is always it's always a struggle. We'd been racing singles earlier in the season as well, which the weight is a bit higher for. So it was a bit of a shock to the system getting back to the double weight. But yeah, it's grand. It does take a bit out of you, but we're kind of over that kind of two day slump and getting back into some training now. So yeah.
Good stuff. Just explain to our listeners, so Fintan, that weight cut, the difference between making weight for a lightweight single and a lightweight double. What is the difference, and how hard is it then to make weight?
So the single is 72.5 kilos is the max, and then for the double, the crew average has to be 70 kilos. So you can kind of weigh whatever you want between like 67 and 72, just to get the crew average to 70. So we're usually some combination of 70 kilos average.
Sounds like fun. That sounds like
but it's
fun.
just that 2.5. You wouldn't think it, but it is a massive difference. Like, even in terms of the few weeks before, you'd have to nearly alter your training a small bit. Definitely alter your food intake, and we do a bit of sweating before the race as well. So, yeah, it's a pretty different kind of preparation.
Yeah, if the preparation is different, the result was the same, gold last Sunday in Munich. So let's go back to the race itself, Fintan. How comfortable were you and Paul with the way that final was unfolding? The Swiss double went out strong, the Italians were there, but you just seemed so comfortable and confident. And from watching on it, I suppose from our point of view, there seemed almost an inevitability about what was going to happen. And it happened in that, I said, 500 metres. You just pulled away, but put yourself back in that boat in the race, going into that second 1,000 metres. Were you happy with the way the race was panning out?
Yeah, I think just from doing so many races together at this stage, we have like a really good trust in each other, and we know what we can do as well. So during the race, we were kind of just focusing on our pace, and it was feeling good. Like, it wasn't feeling too strenuous, and we were creeping back on the Swiss. We kind of know they tend to have a really quick first 1,500 meters. From the last few regattas we've seen them at, they've been really quick to the 1,500. So we weren't too concerned. Like, we knew that they'd be up there with us at that point. So it was just about kind of making sure that we had that extra gear, or not even the extra gear, just maintaining our pace and seeing if we could push on at the end, which I think we managed to do quite well. Like, there's no major plan or like pre-race talk or anything. It's just kind of ingrained at this stage. Like, we know what a race feels like, and we just kind of go to that place every time. So it's just getting better with each race, I think. And even though we haven't had that the perfect preparation or that much time in the boat this year, kind of last year and the previous years are standing to us a bit, I think.
I was listening to one of your interviews after, and I think you said there was only one or two words, even if that's said in the boat during the race. Like, is the communication like what Paul's doing? He knows what you're doing. You just feel the boat, and you both know when to go. Like, has your chemistry evolved to that level now?
Yeah, I really think it has. Like, there isn't any communication in the race really. I kind of shout a word or two kind of coming through the K when we got through the Italians, and I think just the last 200 meters, just to like keep the pace going, kind of thing. But it's not needed really. I think, like I said, we both know what each stroke should feel like, really. So it's just gotten to that stage, where we could probably do it with our eyes closed.
And I'd say if you did it with your eyes closed, you still wouldn't give the rest of the competitors a chance. Like I was saying, Fintan, that's 5 gold medals in a row. Like, it's some winning streak you're on at the moment. And like I said earlier, there's almost an inevitability about it, an expectation that, okay, Fintan and Paul, they're going to win gold again. But do you feel that expectation or that pressure when you're in the boat? Or how do you cope with that now? Even the rest of the crews must be lining up at the start line saying, Jesus, the Irish double is here again. Are we competing for silver at best? Is there, can you feel that pressure and expectation now, given you're world champions, double European champions, you're Olympic champions, you win every race?
Well, like, I think we know it's there. Like, there's no point trying to say it isn't there, because people do expect things of us, but I just don't think we really pay that much attention. Like, it is obviously a privilege to be in our position that we're doing so well in every race, but I think it also, it does put a target on our backs. Like, everyone's trying to see what we're doing and how they can beat us. So like, we know it's there, but I think we're just focusing on like improving ourselves and seeing how we can get better and kind of make things more efficient and things like that. We don't really pay too much attention to what everyone else is saying about us, and I think like we enjoy it as well. So it does take like the stress of that like pressure out of it, because it's there, but even if it wasn't there, we'd still be doing the same thing. So I think it's it's a funny one.
You say you enjoyed, Fintan. How much do you enjoy those last 100, 200 meters when you're gassed out and you're just stretching for that line? Like, talk me through what those final 100, 200 meters are like.
Yeah, it's funny because like you're in a world of pain, but there's like adrenaline going through you. Like, you're feeling, especially when you're ahead, you're feeling like an absolute boss because you're gonna be European champion. So it's funny. Like, it's really enjoyable, but also quite painful.
I was going to say that it looks like you could see the exertion on yourself and Paul after, but I suppose for a bit of context on your latest success, yourself and Paul both raced in singles at different World Cup regattas earlier in the year. This was your first international regatta together since the Olympics last year. You didn't have much of a lead in time either in the double, because Paul he was in Australia, and like I said, you're both in your singles. So for you to come together in that short time and do what you did when the A final, I think, was by 4 seconds last Sunday, like, are you at that level now yourself and Paul, that understanding that once you get in the boat, that it just works?
Like, I think I've been trying to think about it the last few weeks, like what's working for us, and because it is quite strange that you'd be doing so well with that little preparation, or like, not many people might kind of choose to prepare that way, definitely. But I think it's cool to just like be pushing the boundaries of like what everyone does and changing it up, and kind of seeing that maybe it does work for us doing something different, and just finding out what those where those boundaries are, and how little we need to do or how much we need to be together. And I think like we've both improved individually this year, which has made the double faster. So like that's kind of a different way that we found of making the double faster by training by ourselves. Whereas last year, we would have been in the double all the time. So I think obviously the last few years have definitely stood to us, but it's cool to just be like trying new things and just finding ways to go faster. Like, I think this weekend was probably one of our biggest margins ever, which I was a bit surprised by, but from the few sessions we'd done, we knew we had a lot of speed, and it was just really nice to like be able to put it together with minimal prep.
How exciting is that? So, like, in let's even step forward past this year for a second. Next year, the Olympic qualification year, then it'll be the Paris Games in 2024. Like, I'm presuming, I could be wrong, but next year you might have more time in the boat together. See what you've done in a short space of time this year. Like, the more time you get together in the boat, that should theoretically make the boat better.
Yeah, theoretically, but I don't know. We might be proving ourselves wrong a bit this year. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And we're always learning and always finding ways of getting faster. So I'm sure we'll be improving over the next few years anyway. So we'll see how that manifests. But sure, there's loads of young lads, and there's Gary and Jake who are all gunning for spots as well. So obviously that keeps it interesting.
There's been a huge amount of praise for yourself, Fintan and Paul, over the last couple of days. But one man we can't forget, Coach Dominic Casey. I know he's a man of few words. So tell me what he said to you when you came off the water the last day. I presume there was hugs, there was high fives, there was congrats. Was there?
Well, I got whisked off to anti-doping, so I didn't actually see him for a good while. But I assume it was, he's not one for big celebrations after the race. He likes getting the boat de-rigged and put on the trailer as quickly as possible so we can get out of there. But yeah, I'm sure he was pretty pleased with all his results. Really, everyone on the team did exceptionally well. So yeah.
Just on the team for a second, like, let's say stick with the lightweights. Obviously, Lydia and Megs had a brilliant race. They finished fourth, just outside the medals, just off the Italians. Eva Casey, brilliant again in the single, fourth. That lightweight group, and that's not taking into account the heavyweight women are doing superb things at the moment. It must be just a great feeling in the camp right now.
Yeah, and it's really good and really positive. I think everyone's just bringing it to a new level in training, and it's really fun to be around and kind of see everyone hitting those like class performances in training. And me and Paul would always we do these kind of sessions together against other boats, and you get compared based on your how close to the world record pace you are. And we'd always be trying to make sure we get ahead of a certain person at a certain time, just so that we try stay on top, because everyone's absolutely flying it, and it's not easy to beat anyone at all. So I think everyone is just bringing it to a new level, and it's really exciting for the whole team, really.
You've actually teed up the next question just brilliantly, Fintan. You said bring it to a new level. Niall O'Toole was on Off the Ball earlier this week, and he pinpointed you as the man who's brought the Irish double to a new level. He said you've really kicked on this year, that it's you driving this boat, it's taking it to the heights this year. Like, but you're after an incredible year yourself. Like, you had superb success at the Irish Nationals. You're the lightweight men's single and the senior single sculls champion for the first time in boat. Just for the first time in boat, I meant to say. Just for yourself, like, you must be really enjoying your role. Like, you seem to have kicked on again from last year.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of took another year of just rowing this year, just to see, how far I could go. Because obviously, in an Olympic year, it's all about the double, and you're pushing the double as much as you can, trying to win the Olympics. So it was really fun this year to kind of just get an opportunity to focus in on, like, myself and where I could improve individually. And I think it's worked really well. I've kind of learned new ways of training that might work a bit better for me. And it was really nice to get those single sculls titles, and I had a World Cup in the single as well, and just like learning from each race. And like I said before, I think it has actually brought the double on as well. So yeah, it's been a really fun year, to be honest. And like, I have everything I could want in training partners. The lightweight girls double is pretty much the exact same speed as me, so we'd be kicking the heads off each other pretty much every day on the water. So yeah, it's been a good year.
Like, how satisfying is that for you? So to be hitting and reaching those targets and goals that you set for yourself this year, whether that's on the air again in pieces, or like winning those national titles, but you seem to have grown and developed and improved as a rower this year. So from a personal point of view, it must be immensely satisfying to know that you're the Fintan we're seeing now is better than the Fintan that won a gold medal in Tokyo last year.
Yeah, no, it is really satisfying. I think, that's all you can ask for in rowing is just to improve every day and be enjoying it as well, which I am. So yeah, just really happy with the way the year is going. Really, I'm just loving training, loving seeing the improvements all the time, and the group here is really good as well. So can't really complain with anything, to be honest.
I have to ask you, what was Paul like after that senior singles sculls final at the National Road Centre? You inflicted a rare defeat on the man regarded as the best rower in the world.
Oh, he was grand. I think obviously he had a bit of time in Australia and he's a bit tired after Lucerne. So I definitely don't think we saw the full speed of that day. But I think, yeah, he was grand. There was handshakes and chats, and I think we were both just happy because we knew that the double was going to be good.
Like a fast Fintan and a fast Paul makes a fast Irish lightweight double. And again, go back to Niall O'Toole off the ball this week. He said that for you, he goes, it must be absolutely terrifying to row behind Paul, given what he's done and what he's like and so on. So what is it like to share a boat with the man who's regarded as the best lightweight rower in the world?
Oh, not at all terrifying, to be honest. Like, we maybe a couple of years ago when I first came into it, it was, you're trying to keep on top of things and make sure you weren't messing up. But I think over the years, like you said earlier, we've developed a really good chemistry, and I think we definitely both see each other more as equals in the boat these days. And like, I really value his opinion. I think he values my opinion. We always kind of come to the right decision on things, whether it's changing something in the boat or settings or how we want to row and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, it's I love it, to be honest. Yeah, can't complain.
But doesn't that just highlight your growth, development and progression over the years? When you came into that boat first in 2019, you were landing into the boat with the three-time world champion, by then the Olympic silver medalist and so on, and maybe you felt you'd have to prove yourself in beside such a great rower, but now you are on equal with Paul. Like, together you've made this boat better. So that right there shows how much you've grown and developed.
Yeah, I think as I have, but as well, that's just the nature of training and kind of experience. Really, you just get more used to things. You get a bit better every day and push on that way. So it, like, probably the mental side of it is big as well. Just proving to myself, throughout the years that I should be there, and that we're doing something pretty special within the category. So yeah, it's been pretty good to see that kind of development, I guess.
To say you're doing something pretty special within the lightweight category is an understatement. Like I said, 5 goals in a row, and I think that's 15 race wins between the last 5 international regattas, between heats, semi-finals and A-finals. Is that something you're ever conscious of? We're winning everything. Like maybe a number in your head. I know there was a New Zealand pair years ago, undefeated for years and years. Are you thinking, okay, can we create something here? Like, can we create this dynasty or this legend and go down in rowing history as the greatest lightweight double in the world? Would you ever let that thought into your head that you're on the brink of something here?
Not really, to be honest. I think it's more, like I said earlier, just seeing what works for us, like trying different things. It's never about like the results or the accolades or anything like that. Really, it's just enjoying the process and kind of getting as much as we can out of the training. And it's fun, to try different things and see how far we can take different training sessions or push the setup. And just there's so many ways you can go with rowing, like in training, in technique, in the recovery from training, in the, you know, you can do 100,000 different things, and some things might work for you and some things might not. And it's actually really, I know it probably doesn't sound that nice, but it is entertaining and fun to like try all these things and see what's working. And it feels like you're kind of moving towards the best version of yourself and of the goat every time. So I think it is more about that than thinking about the, you know, the winning and the medals and all that. But I guess, yeah, that's just a byproduct really of enjoying the process and just making sure that we are stepping on.
Moving towards that best versions of yourself, you know, your intent, determined to get better. Paul's program the same, like, put that together. Could we see this double get even better, you know, kind of? And if you can improve, where can you improve? Because for us on the outside looking, we're like, Jesus, the lads are just winning everything the way they are, you know, but you can probably see those improvements that you can make. And if you can, what are they? And how better could that make you then?
It's funny because, you know, sometimes if you improve one thing, you can go backwards in another thing. So I guess it is measuring up, you know, those gains and comparing them to each other. But I think, like, we had a pretty good regatta with not much preparation. So I think this year it's just going to be focusing on how we can get the most out of ourselves with as little preparation as possible. Because I think that probably will stand to us, you know, in a few years, maybe, you know, you never know if one of us has to be out of the boat for a week or two in the build up to things. It'll just give us that confidence for, you know, to say it's okay to do that if that's what we need. So, you know, even if, say, this year it's not doing everything we can to make the boat faster right now, it might help us in the long run. And if we can pull it off, then I think that will be really exciting, because it'll just give us that extra, you know, bank of confidence that if we need to, you know, if we need to take a step back during the preparation at any stage, that will be okay. So we've kind of seen that we can do well. So we'll see how the World Champs goes, and then it's a new season and take it from there, I guess.
The World Champs are on in the Czech Republic next month, mid-September. Paul kind of hinted afterwards he wasn't too sure whether he'll be there or not. But what's the latest? Give us an exclusive here, Fintan. Will we see the Irish double at the World Championships? Will you be defending your World Crown, or what's the latest?
Yeah, I think we're going to give it a bash. Paul's gone back to university now for a few weeks, and I'll be training out in Spain. So we'll try to get together as often as we can, you know, whether that's me flying home or Paul coming out to Spain for a bit. And then I think, yeah, we're going to head to the World Champs and see how we get on. That's the plan for the moment anyway.
And how much looking forward to that?
Yeah, really looking forward to it. It'd be nice to get stuck into a good block of training and then see how we go. Hopefully we can, you know, make a step on from Europeans and yeah, see what happens.
Oh, brilliant. It's fierce exciting. And my final question is, you haven't been home to West Cork, obviously, since you won your European gold medal. You won't be home for a while. So where is the medal right now? Is it hidden in a sock in a room? Have you put it in the middle of a book, or where is that European gold?
It's in my suitcase, yeah. Ready for home already. So hopefully there'll be another one added by the end of the trip.
Which would hopefully there will be ready to join an already incredible collection. You've been so kind with your time, Fintan. Congrats again last weekend, and best of luck in the Czech Republic next month.
Thanks, Kieran.
Delighted to be joined by Avril Condell of Access Credit Union, who's here to tell us a little bit about Cultivate Farm Finance. So Avril, maybe just give us a brief introduction to what Cultivate Farm Finance actually is.
So Cultivate is a collaboration of 40 credit unions throughout Ireland. West Cork has both Access Credit Union and Bantry Credit Union. The loan itself is up to 75,000 unsecured for 7 years is the max term, but obviously can be personalised and customised to each individual's needs. It's a great facility actually for farmers, because it covers cash flow, machinery purchases, like there's a fertilizer crisis now, as we know. So literally anything that is required for the farm can be covered by this loan. The rate is very competitive. We can match the repayment term and the repayment frequency to each individual farmer, depending on their enterprise. And you also have the benefit of the life cover that comes with the credit union loan, which I think is very important for people these days at no extra cost.
And if I'm a farmer and I'm listening to you on this podcast today, how can I get involved?
So if you're not sure of which credit union you're involved with, you can go to Cultivate Credit Union directly, which is www.cultivate-cu.ie, or you can phone 1800 839 999. And if Access is your credit union, you can contact me directly. So it's avril@accesscu.ie, or you can ring me on 085 268 2727.
Right, lads, we're going to switch our attention to the club action now. And as I mentioned at the top, we're going to hear Matthew's chat with Bill Fleming of Argideen Rangers in a moment. But we'll start with a quick review of the football from last weekend. And Matthew is going to deliver his top 5 takeaways from the weekend that was, starting with number 5.
Yeah, all the 5 really involved West Cork teams. It was a plethora of West Cork derbies last weekend. Brilliant action for West Cork person indeed. And number 5 is what Arthur Coakley, the Bantry selector, calls the Battle of the Bay between Bantry Blues and Castledown Bear. It was a brilliant win for Bantry. Point victory over their near rivals Castledown Bear. Gary Murphy did well for Castledown Bear there, but Bantry, they squeezed through in the end, and it's a crucial win for them now because they're through to the next round of the Premier Intermediate Football Championship with a game to spare against the Peership, who themselves are doing pretty poorly. So there's a very good chance now for Bantry to finish top of the group. It's a brilliant achievement by them. And number 4 is El Skibico, as we christened them in the Southern Star last week as well. Very, very good derby to look forward to. But Skibbereen and West Cork, they eased to victory in the end, 216 to 1-9 over Ilen Rovers. It is one thing Ilen Rovers are struggling, but I want to concentrate on how good Skib are doing, because that's 2 wins out of 2 now. That's only them and St. Michael's have 100% records in the Senior A Football Championship. So that's a brilliant achievement by them. Kevin Davis, very good. Ellie Conley again. So Skib are flying at the moment, and they are probably one of the dark horses to look at in the Senior A Football Championship. Very good win for them. For Ilen, they're going downhill, unfortunately.
Just to stick with that one for a moment, Matthew, because obviously we had done a big preview on that game, and you mentioned a great result for O'Donovan Rossa, and Kieran, they're looking like a team who may well end this year in a county final the way things are going.
Yeah, things are going quite well for Skib this year. They're coming off the back of a very poor season last year, and they didn't get out of their group in the Senior A Football Championship. They have a change of management. Gino Donovan is in, and even reading his quotes after the win against Ireland, even when I was chatting to him last week, he's making the point that this Skib team is almost dispelling the notions that are out there about them. He said, like, there's these thoughts that Skib are fine day footballers, that there's no toughness to them, that these notions doing the rounds. But he's convinced that this Skibbereen team, even though it's the same players, but maybe it's a different approach, different mentality, that they're just putting those ideas to bed. 2 impressive wins, like 216, like Matthew said there, they put up on Ireland. I think it was 3-10 or so, or something like that. They put up against Newmarket, so they're putting up big scores. So they're building a bit of momentum right now. When we think back to 2 years ago, they were one of the form teams in the Senior A Football Championship too, but they faded in the semi-final. Like, they didn't pass their semi-final test, and they came up short. The National, like I said, was quite disappointing. But so far this year, they're doing all the things right. They've 2 wins in a row. They're going so well in that group. They're through to the knockout stages with 1 game to spare. So things are looking good for Skib. But I have to say, like, Ilen, they're in the spot of bother again, you know, kind of that's their 2nd group defeat in a row, relegated from Premier Senior last year. If they lose their last game, I think it's against Newmarket, Matthew, am I right?
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
Yeah, then all of a sudden they could find themselves in another relegation scrap, and that's just not where they want to be. But I think Ilen should have enough to beat Newmarket in the last game, but the lads need to go out there and deliver a performance to get the point, just to almost just to kind of stop the rot, in effect, just stop losing group games and just even a win in the last game, just avoid a relegation and use that as a platform to hopefully kick on a bit next year.
Okay, Matthew, number 3.
And number 3 is another West Cork derby between Dawnies and Bandon. Very good victory for Dawnies here, 20 points to 110. Like, Dawnies were always really in control of this game. Mark Buckley and Fionn Hurley, I think, scored 7 points between them. So again, the dynamic duo in that Dawnies team, they're now on 3 points and look very good in the Senior A Football Championship. Bandon, a spot and bother for them as well, and spot and bother for the hurlers as well. I don't know what's going on in Bandon this year in Bocode, so it's very hard to find out what is going on, how are they doing so badly for such a big parish, big town, big GA town in Bandon. So they're doing poorly, but Dawnies are flying and they will be another threat for the Senior A Football Championship. Then we move on to the Premier Senior Championship, the draw between Clon and Newcestown. I don't think the result will suit either team, to be honest with you. 1 point each. Castlehaven and Nebo obviously played the previous night, Nebo winning that, but both sides know after going to their last game trying to win. For Clon, yes, they were without a few players injured, but you would have thought Clon would have won that game. There was a point where they were actually, I think, 5 or 6 points clear of Newcestown. Newcestown had pulled it back because Clon got a black card at the end of the first half. Then they got a goal through Jack Mead, and it was nip and tuck until then. And yeah, it was a very good finish to the game, very exciting finish. And but both sides would be very, very unhappy with the draw at the end of it.
And just sticking with Clonakilty for a moment then, because they obviously were in last season's county final. We spoke about them a couple of weeks ago on the show. And Kieran, where does this leave Clon now? Obviously they play Nemo next. Nemo have been looking very impressive thus far. So does a loss to Nemo for Clon spell the end of their campaign?
100%, because the way that group is shaping up right now, the group of 8, Nemo are already through there on 4 points. Then we're down to Castlehaven, who've 2 points, and then it's Clonakilty, Newcestown on a point each. The only thing that could actually work in Clon's favour is the fact that Nemo are through already with a game to spare. So it depends on Nemo's approach. But if we're looking at them so far this year, like, Nemo are just a juggernaut. They're beating every team that's put in front of them. So it's a big ask for a Clonakilty team that hasn't hit the heights of last year, that hasn't replaced Darrow O'Shea up front, that's probably struggling for a small bit of form. So you'd have to say that Nemo will be the big favourites for that game. But I think the interesting one will be Castlehaven and Newcestown in Rossmore, because as it stands, Castlehaven are 2 points, Newcestown are 1 point. If, and it's a big if Newcestown beat Castlehaven, they'll leapfrog them in the table. And we're thinking that Nemo will probably be Clon. All of a sudden, then Newcestown are in second place. So that game in Rossmore, Newcestown and Clon, is a huge, huge game, because Newcestown have a chance to really cause a big shock there. The reality is that Castlehaven, even though they lost to Nemo last weekend, were still quite impressive too. But you never know. It's a one-off. It's a knockout game. That both of those games now are knockout games. Clon and Newcestown know that they have to win. Castlehaven know they don't have much room for error too. So the group of death is living up to its billing.
Okay, Matthew, and finally, number 1.
And the undoubted number 1 is Carbery Rangers win over Aero. Gives a brilliant victory for them, 211 to 112. Like, this could have been a sticky game for Carbery Rangers, but they stuck in there and won the game at the end. Like, Aero were actually down a good bit going to the last few minutes, but Colin O'Callaghan goal made it interesting. But Carbery Rangers are looking very good this year, and considering the fact that the last 2 years they lost 5 out of their last 6 championship games, and to win out 2 out of 2, albeit Carrigaline was the first game, but still to get that winning mentality there, it's a brilliant aspect to have for Carbery Rangers. And they're now going to the last game against the Bars in kind of bonus territory. Like, if they win that game, they could easily get to a semi-final. And that game is on at Ballygiblin. It's in West Cork, so maybe that'll suit Carbery Rangers down to a T. So that would be a big game for Carbery Rangers. But they are through at least the quarterfinals anyway. Brilliant achievement by them. And so big players like Jack Cavan, Jack O'Regan really stepped up to the plate. John O'Rourke only got 1 point in this game, and that just shows you they aren't as reliant on O'Rourke as they have been in the past. So this is a very, very good future for Carbery Rangers, and they probably will be a team to watch going down the home stretch in this championship.
Yeah, Kieran, big turnaround for Carbery Rangers this season, as Matthew mentioned there. Is there anything we can put our finger on as to why they've been so impressive? Has the draw been slightly kinder to them this year than it has been in other years, or is that harsh? They've won their first 2 games. They can only beat who's in front of them.
think they've been in a kind of transitional phase the last couple of years. We've had the elder statesmen, the John Hayes, the Seamus Hayes, fellas like this who've been around for an awful long time, and they've been leading the Roscarby charge so well for well over a decade or more. Like, they've been incredible servants to the club. But there's a good crop of young players coming up, and like Matthew mentioned them there, like Keelan Scannell, Jack Cavan, Pedro O'Rourke, these young fellas who are stepping up now, and I think they're starting to find their feet at senior level, which is great to see. And they've two wins on the bounce now. And I think the significance of Carby Rangers beating Éire Óg and Bandon was last year. In these two teams met in Bandon as well in the opening group game, and Éire Óg beat Ross that day. But fast forward 12 months, both teams are in different positions. Maybe Éire Óg aren't what they were last year. They haven't hit those heights just yet. But Carby Rangers went out and they won an important game, and they're through to the knockout stages with one game to spare. And it's great. Like, it's great for Declan Hayes and his management team. Declan Hayes is in his second year in charge, and he had a tough baptism of fire last year. I remember being on the sideline in that game in Bandon, and the likes, I think it was James Fitzpatrick and a couple of more were injured. A couple of their leading lights, they were missing some of their big stellar players who've carried that team for a long time. But now this transitional phase, it's moving in the right direction. I don't think they're at the stage yet, you could say they're genuine contenders for a county title, but at least they're pushing forward. Whatever happens from this year on, there's a base there for this Roscarby team to build on. But I don't think any team would like to play them in the knockout stages either, because they have some really, really good players there. So good for Roscarby and good for Carby Rangers.
Okay, good stuff, lads. Let's park the football there for now, because Matthew has been speaking to Bill Fleming of Argideen Rangers, who've been making impressive moves in the Premier Junior Hurling Championship so far this season.
So Argideen Rangers have had a terrific start to the Cork Premier Junior Hurling Championship so far this season, seeing off Ballygarvan and Dripsey on the way to the latter stages of the county championships, and they've Ballygiblin the club as well, under really low pressure going into that game. So I'm delighted to be joined here by Bill Fleming, centre-back of the team and one of the stars of the campaign so far. So I suppose, first of all, Bill, you couldn't have wished for a better start with Argideen Rangers, 2 wins from 2.
Geez, yeah, it's a brilliant start to get. Luckily we're qualified going to the last game, which is a big weight off our shoulders. So we knew Ballygarvan game was going to be a massive game to start things off. And we Dripsey then last week, which was important to build on it again. So yeah, 2 wins from 2. Can't ask for any more than that.
And I suppose before the season even started, were you achieving just to get out of the group in a way, or were you achieving to even go further into the Premier Junior Championship?
Well, at the start of the year, the format for the championship was up in the air, to be honest. There was talks that the Premier Junior wasn't even going to be a grade, and if only 4 teams would survive and the rest would go down. So we weren't really sure until that changed, and the Premier Junior is staying now. So when the draw was made, we saw the draw, and we lost to Ballygarvan last year in tight fashion in the quarter final, and we know how good Dripsey are. We played them most years, and of course Ballygiblin winning the Junior A county and getting to the All Ireland final. Getting out of the group was definitely the aim.
And I suppose with the Ballygarvan game, especially, after losing them in the last few years or so, and then to beat them by 2 points, 19 points to 211, first day out, that must have been an outstanding victory for the Timberlea club.
Geez, it was a brilliant victory now. We started off flying it. I think we were up 7 points to 1, but we played them last year. We were up 7 points to 2, so it was kind of similar. They got a goal then after a quarter of an hour, and I think we kicked on again. I think we were up about 7 or 8 points around half time, but we knew the onslaught was going to come again. And to be fair to them, they're a serious outfit. They brought it all the way back. I think it was level with 5 minutes to go, and they had a couple of chances. They could have even gone in front and nearly would have taken a draw at that stage, but it probably would have felt like a loss from the position that we were in. So luckily, John Michael O'Callaghan and a few guys stepped up and got a couple of points, and came out of there relieved in the end, and just delighted to get the 2 points on the board.
I suppose getting them 2 points on the board must have been brilliant for the campaign going forward. I did beat Dripsey, and after that, you're going to a game against Ballygiblin under really no pressure to deliver that game. I know Ballygiblin are a decent side, and obviously you'd want to win the game to top the group, but at the same time, to get out of the group even this early is a brilliant achievement.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's a massive weight off our shoulders, to be honest. we get to go into the Ballygiblin game kind of with a bit of a free shot, that if you did win the game, you'd have the possibility of possibly getting into a bye into a semi-final. Now, obviously, Ballygiblin are going to be raging hot favourites. They've players like Mark Keane, dual star and AFL star, Colin O'Mahony, Colin English, Tipperary under-21 All-Ireland winning captain, Joseph O'Sullivan played Cork Minor, so they have a whole host of brilliant players. So even after the game, we'll have a better idea of how we fare against one of the benchmark teams in the grade. So it's a good game to be looking forward to.
And I suppose you mentioned the benchmark and the grade. That would probably be a main aim for Argideen Rangers. I know winning the 2 games was brilliant for you, but it would kind of show where you're at in this championship, whether you could go further in the competition or if you need things to work on after the Ballygiblin game.
Exactly, yeah. Like Ballygiblin, look at their form there over the last 2 years. They're unbeaten in Cork, After this game, you'll have half an idea how we fare against the likes of the Kilbrittons and Tractons and Russell Rovers, who are probably the main teams to be looking at in the grade at the moment.
You mentioned Kilbritton there. Is that a prospect you'd be kind of looking forward to if you faced them in the later rows? Because that'll be a big West Cork derby, and for hurling in West Cork, that'll be absolutely huge.
Oh, sure, yeah, of course, we don't mind who we play, to be honest, but Kilbritton got to the final last year. We played them last year. They gave us a good beating inside in Bandon. So obviously, yeah, you'd like to play one of the main teams in the grade, but we'll see how it fares out.
I suppose another team in the Premier Junior grade is Barry Rowe as well. You mentioned that you don't care who you play, but at the same time, playing a Kilbritton or a Barry Rowe, that'll be some West Cork derby to look forward to if you were to play them as well.
Jeez, yeah, we're only just getting overplayed them a couple of weeks ago in football, so that was a tight, tough game. Now, to be honest, those games always there's added a bit extra to them, but we don't mind who we play, to be honest. So it doesn't make a difference to us.
I suppose at the same time, you play dual in this, you're playing junior A football as well. You have a closer type of carrigs in the football, to be fair to you. You beat Barry Rowe as well. So how hard is it kind of to juggle hurling and football in the last few weeks? So I could imagine it's very tough, but at the same time, you would imagine the players would relish playing games week in, week out.
Exactly, yeah. No, it's very difficult. I think we've such a small, tight-knit group, probably 12 or 13 is the same team in hurling and football. I think we only had about 21 tagged out the last day against Tripsy, and probably similar in the football. So any injury makes a massive difference to us playing week on week. We've 3 players out at the moment with long-term knee injuries, and we have another 2 away travelling. So we're down to the bare bones. But to be fair, everyone's putting their shoulder to the wheel. It's great to have games week on week. That's why you're training in the middle of the winter, to be playing out in good weather and good conditions, championship matches against some of the best teams. So no, it's great to be playing week on week.
And you mentioned the good weather, that's only really brought in recent years due to the split season. Either county usually would be these months, August and September. How good has the split season been so far for clubs like yourself, especially? I can imagine it's very good playing in very nice weather conditions week on week. And the split season's ultimately been a success for clubs like Argideen Rangers.
It has, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a big fan of it. A couple of years ago there, it was you'd play one game in April and then you'd be off again until nearly the end of August. And you have to go back training in December or January for the game in April and build yourselves up for that, and then bring yourselves down and almost start a new championship, which it wasn't ideal, to be honest. And then you're playing games in October, November when pitches are soggy and wet, and no, this is the time of year you want to be playing, to be honest. So I'm happy out with it at the moment.
And I suppose the main man behind it all in Argideen is Paul Hollins. Managed Valley Rovers in the football last year, got them to the quarterfinals of the Premier Senior Football Championship. Brilliant achievement, and it's his first year with the Argideen Rangers hurlers. What sort of influence has he had on the team? I could imagine a massive one.
Yeah, Paul has been brilliant. When he took over at the start of the year, most people said, Paul Holland, he's managing in football, is it? And we were kind of thinking ourselves, because he's such a good record in football, He's managed Valley Rovers and he's been involved in Cork minor football teams, and I'm sure he had a whole host of offers available to him. But I suppose it instilled a bit of confidence into the squad that Paul was so willing to take on the challenge. That it wasn't one that we were kicking down the door in any championships recently. So he brought in Mikey Welch and Declan Crowley, 2 Tim League stalwarts with him. So no, their management has been super, yeah.
I suppose Paul coming in with the calibre he has behind him, like managing Valley Rovers, being involved in Cork squads, as you mentioned, is that kind of an indication of where Argideen Rangers could go as a club in this Premier Junior Hurling Championship? Because obviously Paul sees the potential in you.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I suppose the team we had out the last day, I think about 10 of the 15 are under the age of 25. We've asking a lot of fellas like Sean Walsh and Fergal Walsh and Sean Hinchin, fellas only in their second season, 18, 19 years of age, to step up and play a vital role. So I suppose Paul maybe sees the guys coming through as maybe in a couple of years' time that there might be a good team there. So I'm not sure about this year, but yeah, it's great that Paul obviously saw something in us. So that's great to see.
And I suppose getting further on the championship, what would be the main aim for Argideen Rangers getting out of the group? Obviously, you've done that now, but what would be a big aim for Argideen to achieve in this competition? Semi-finals, possibly?
Possibly, yeah. I suppose we find ourselves in a quarter-final now, regardless of the result the next day. Obviously, we don't know who that's going to be against, but yeah, it's the grade. It's quite. There's not much between the top and the bottom team, so I think everyone is going to fancy their chances, whoever they meet. So yeah, semi-final and see how we go then.
Yeah, semi-final would be absolutely brilliant for Argideen Rangers. I suppose thanks very much, Bill, for hopping onto the podcast, and wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season. Obviously, the next game against Ballygiblin, which is on August 26th at Riverstown, if anyone wants to go to it. So thank you, Bill, for your time, and I wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Matthew. Thank you.
Hi, Avril here from Access Credit Union. We are delighted to once again sponsor the Star Sports podcast. As part of our range of new business loans, we now offer Cultivate Farm Finance, the farmer-friendly loan package. With a Cultivate loan, farmers in West Cork can benefit from the local decision-making and personal service offered by Access Credit Union. To find out more, go to accesscu.ie/cultivate, call me on 085 268 2727 or 028 21883, where a member of our team will be happy to help you with your inquiry.
Welcome back to the Star Sport podcast, and briefly, Kieran, let's preview this week's Southern Star Sports section. Rowing wall to wall, I'm betting.
Rowing wall to wall, but GA wall to wall as well after a huge weekend. So 28-page sports section this Thursday, packed with everything, and it's a brilliant read again. Of course, we've coverage of the European Championship sport rowing and athletics. We also have 2 pages on the Irish Coastal Rowing Championships that were held in Skull last weekend. Talking to a few people there that were there, Skull rolled out the carpet, and we had a load of West Cork winners too. So 17 pictures across 2 pages. So if you were rowing in the Irish Coastal Rowing Championships in Skull, check out this week's Star to see if you made the cut. As well as that, like I said, GA-wise, we've huge coverage there, county championships and Carbery championships. So we've full page reports on Castletown Bear and Bantry, Clonakilty, Newcestown, Downies and Bandon, Ilen and Skib, Castlehaven and Nemo Rangers. So we've huge coverage of that. Also great coverage of the Carbery Junior A Football Championship. And just to touch on a bit of controversy there that I suppose over the last couple of days was in Group 1 of the Carbery Junior A Football Championship. It came down to scoring difference at the end, and Barry Rowe, I suppose some of their Barry Rowe folk took to Twitter on Monday night, and they weren't too happy with the final result, because what happened in this group, and we've explained in Thursday Southern Stars, that Bandon conceded a walkover to Barry Rowe in the early stage, and that meant that when 3 teams finished on 4 points on Sunday night, Tyke McCorrick, Argideen and Barry Rowe, as per the rules according to the Carbery board, we have it in this Thursday Star, that Bandon's results had to be taken out, and it meant that Barry Rowe missed out on advancing to the quarterfinals by 1 single point. It's agonising. It's so close. But we have a statement from the Carbery board on this in Thursday Southern Star, so check that out.
Well, this has caused quite the stir on social media, because even the great Buff Egan was weighing in, and he was none too plussed by the treatment of Barry Rowe. So I guess the best thing to do is wait for the statement from the Carberry board, but I get the feeling that the affected players aren't going to pay too much heed to what the Carberry board have to say.
Yeah, that could be true. So check out the Star for the Carberry point of view. Touch base with Barry Rowe, but they didn't want to talk about it. So so not much we could do with the Barry Rowe angle in that sense. But like I said, we have the Carberry point of view where they've explained their reasoning and how it all worked and how it all panned out. So
I don't know about you, but it sounds pretty unfair to me. But I'm going to just leave it there. I'm going to throw that grenade out into the world and see what happens.
So we'll see what people think of Thursday's Southern Star. So it's all in that. And final piece I want to plug, it's one of my favourite pieces I've written this year, but it's on the Kilmacabea under-12 girls football team that won the West Cork Region C1 under-12 league final last week. They beat Courties in Barry Rowe. And why this story I suppose caught my attention and why I wrote a column about it is it's the first time that Kilmacabea GA Club fielded girls teams this year. So this club was founded in 1888, but for the first time they fielded girls teams. They have under 8, under 10 and under 12 age groups. And it's just brilliant to see. To be quite honest, I suppose Kilmacabea one of the clubs that are a small bit behind the curve because West Cork ladies football, underage ladies football is quite strong in West Cork. But Kilmacabea is catching up. And I also unearthed the story about Claire O'Donoghue. She's a Lep native who had to leave her club at under 14 level back in 2000 and joined Beara. And Claire went on to win 4 senior All-Ireland titles with the Cork ladies footballers under Eamon Ryan. She was a backup goalkeeper in that team. So I think it's a really good story. The fact that Kilmacabea now have these underage girls teams, but how it's brought and galvanised that club. It's brought people closer together. And I had a very good chat with Donny O'Donovan, who spearheaded this in Kilmacabea, to get his thoughts on why they did it, the effect it's had, and so on. So it's a really, really good read, and I'd really recommend the Last Word column on page 28 of this week's Southern Star.
Lovely stuff, Kieran. Well, we're going to leave it there. Obviously, the same story as every week. If you can't make it to the shops, you can subscribe online. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/epaper and you can read the Southern Star on your computer, tablet or smartphone for less than €2 per week. Thanks, as always, for listening to the Star Sport Podcast. And thanks as well to our producer, Dylan Mangan. If you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Slán Tamil.